Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gene Christopher, and I'm here with my wife, Gloria. We have a few words to say on BJ's behalf. But firstly, my condolences to the family, to Sonia, to Yvette, to Victor, and to Anthony. My condolences from not this Christopher family, but also the extended family. Many years ago, BJ had brewed in his mind an idea. He approached my father with this plan to form a musical group, and he insisted that my younger sister be part of it. That little brainstorm eventually became known as BJ & Co. The original lineup was Sharon and Christopher Mills, Charmaine and Dana Williams, Rodney Jones, Doreen Christopher, and Selwyn John. And of course, BJ himself. Between them, there was drums, there was bass, there was the occasional electric lead guitar, a piano-stroke keyboard, a clarinet, and BJ proudly wielding his saxophone. Every other Friday evening, BJ would drive to West London, collect this crew of young people, driving to Harlesden, to Acton, to Shepherd's Bush, and haul them back to his place in Streatham, southwest London. There they would practice. And all this was done in his Volvo. Remember that big Volvo he used to have? This was pre-minibus days. 6 growing young people wedged into a car, surviving rush hour. The journey would take anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour plus. I had passed my driving test, and I started to help with the driving. So rather than one squashed car, there were now 2 cars that were going down this routine, taking them down to practice and back. I would deliver everyone to rehearsal, but since I didn't really sing or play anything, I mostly hovered around like an extra piece of furniture. Until one day, one evening, BJ looked at me and said, "Gene, control the sound." And just like that, our fates were sealed. From then on, whenever the group had an appointment, we hauled this and set up the PA equipment, and I became responsible for the sound. What started in a cramped Volvo soon grew into years of involvement in church and community events. Many summers, BJ provided the sound for evangelistic campaigns and revivals, making sure that the gospel was loud and clear and impossible to ignore in school halls and sports gyms across West London and also Northwest London. Nightly, he would drive the van to the venue. We would unload the van, set up the system, have the service, break down the system, reload the van, and then he would drive the van home 5 to 6 times in a week, and maybe twice on Sabbath, you may say. Bear in mind that BJ lived in southwest London, and most of these programs happened in West London. When BJ got involved in something, he was dedicated to that cause. BJ helped at wedding receptions, including our very own many years ago, making sure that every speech was heard, even if you didn't want to. The winter months brought concerts, some hosted by Brother John himself, and others he helped support. If sound was needed and the cause was just, BJ was there. BJ was passionate about his music and never afraid to push boundaries. In the early days of BJ & Co., drums in church was still considered a controversy, even here in Chiswick. But he paved the way with conviction, courage, and with just a little bit of the signature BJ charm. One of my last interactions with him was at church, a church not too far from where he lives. I was helping the team that day do the sound. After the service, I went up to him to say hi and how things were doing. We shook hands, and before any other pleasantries, he said to me, "The soloist was too loud." That was just BJ, typical BJ.
Brother Gilbert John is affectionately known as BJ or Uncle BJ by the members of my family. I can't quite remember how I got to be so close to BJ and by extension, Sonia and the boys. But it was more than likely all the concerts that he put on that I turned up for with Gene hours before the concert started, while Gilbert, Gene, Victor and Anthony set up the PA system, and then the hours I was there after the concert finished, waiting for the same individuals to pack up all the equipment. Or maybe it was all those trips we had traveling with to wherever Pastor Hamilton Williams was preaching, or church board meetings where BJ would directly and eloquently express himself. Whichever it was, a permanent bond was formed and maintained. So much so that he very rarely called me Gloria. It was Gloglo. He was one of the very few people outside my blood relatives who were permitted to abbreviate my name, and I would respond. Whenever he called me or I called him and I heard Gloglo, a broad smile would come to my face. I have many fond memories of BJ. He was a serious man, but he could be absolutely hilarious. Sometimes he would say or do something that you just had to smile, shrug your shoulders, and shake your head while repeating the phrase, "Only BJ." I'd like to share two of such memories. The first one is the motorway incident. Picture this. It's early hours Sabbath morning. You're in BJ's minibus with the usual group heading up to Preston, I believe, for one of Pastor Williams's preaching appointments. I was sitting towards the back with the Trini nurses, listening to some of their gruesome revelations. The minibus takes the junction slip road to get off the motorway. Next thing we know, the minibus stops, and then we're reversing. Did I mention that we were on the motorway? After reversing a short distance, we then proceeded forward back to on the motorway. BJ had turned off at the wrong junction, so stopped, reversed back off the slip road, and proceeded back on the motorway, saying something like, "Wrong junction." This, mind you, was before cameras, thankfully. Only BJ. This brings me to my second memory. BJ also extended his love to our girls, Georgia and Grace, when they came along. The girls would always say hello to their Uncle BJ and have little conversations with him. BJ, as many of you know, had a passion for music, whether listening, playing, putting on concerts with his PA system, or running a band at Chiswick way back in the day. One Sabbath, in their conversations, BJ asks a very young Georgia what instruments she likes. Georgia replied, "Violin." A couple of weeks later, after church, Georgia and Grace go and say hello as usual to BJ. And he presents her with her first violin. Grace apparently gave him the look, which BJ said he interpreted it as, "So what about me? I'm people too." BJ was laughing his head off when he was relaying the episode to me, and continued to laugh over the years whenever he reminded me of it. But a couple of weeks later, the girls go to say hello to Uncle BJ after church, and lo and behold, Miss Grace is presented with her first violin. BJ never neglected to ask for updates on his girls whenever we had our marathon phone calls, and there was always a little chuckle in his voice when he said Grace's name, because he never forgot that incident. Even when I visited BJ in hospital, though in pain, within the first few minutes of our conversation, he asked for an update on his girls and smiled and nodded his head when I told him what they were doing. BJ was a loving, principled, consistent, and trustworthy man who made his mark and enriched the lives of my family, and we thank God for BJ.
We will end with this. Make plans to attend the great concert on the Getting Up morning. First item on the program, the trumpet sound of God. BJ will be there with many others, so make plans to attend.